The Thermaltake Flow-Ring RGB 360 TT Premium Edition sports three 120mm Ring Plus RGB fans and a glorious LED water block with native support for socket AM4 and LGA 2066. Superior cooling and a swarm of software-controlled addressable RGB LEDs make this CLC a perfect pairing for your unlocked CPU. Click the link in the description for more info.
What's going on, guys? Welcome back to the channel. Hope you're all doing well. So this is a follow-up video to my initial launch video that I did for RX Vega 56 and 64. Right off the bat, I have to fess up that I misjudged my testing methodology for that video and all those benchmarks that were run, simply because at the time, like I mentioned, I did not have a press driver for allowing me to overclock Vega manually, so I decided to run it in the turbo profile within AMD HITMAN up against manually overclocked GTX 1070 and GTX 1080, which I, in hindsight, should not have done. And while the turbo profile did add sort of a boost to those cards, to the Vega cards, it wasn't quite the same as manually overclocking Vega myself. So now that we have the public driver on the AMD Radeon website, I actually went in and did some manually overclocking with Vega 56, which is what we're focusing on today, and redid all the benchmarks, comparing it against a manually overclocked GTX 1070. So let me just walk you through exactly what I did. AMD HITMAN, for starters, is a little bit funky right now as a software. I was able to crank the slider, the core clock percentage slider, all the way up to 20%. Really without crashing under load, and I probably could have gone further, but I didn't because I figured something was kind of fishy. And even the peak clock speeds that were being reported within HITMAN were reflecting a 20% gain whenever I'd crank the slider up that high. However, when doing some validation within 3D Mark Firestrike Extreme, I noticed that our performance hit a wall at around 12%. So that's pretty much what I kept it at for all of today's tests, was a 12% overclock to RX Vega 56. The card did get fairly warm under load, maxing out at 86 degrees Celsius. I made sure to keep a close eye on the clock speeds, and it seemed to stay right at 1784 megahertz, so I did not observe any throttling throughout the entirety of our Firestrike Extreme testing. Additionally, we are using the same testbed that we used in the last video, so the Intel Core i9-7900X overclocked to 4.5 gigahertz on all cores on top of an X299 Gaming Pro Carbon, and that was also running 32 gigs of G-Skill Trident Z DDR4 at 3200 speed. It's also worth noting that I omitted 4K benchmarks from today simply because we're not focusing on Vega 56 or the GTX 1080, and at the performance levels of the GTX 1070 and Vega 56, pretty much we're not too concerned with 4K performance at that point. So without further ado, ladies and gentlemen, here are the round 2 benchmarks for our GTX 1070 and Vega 56 manually overclocked cards. All right, evidently we can see a pretty nice gain from manually overclocking our Vega 56 as opposed to just running it in turbo mode, which is why we're seeing these two cards compete now really closely neck and neck. I mean, overall, the GTX 1070 still has a 0.74% lead over the RX Vega 56, but it's just so marginal. I mean, I'd pretty much consider this a draw simply because the cards are trading blows throughout all of our tests. And really what this comes down to now is price. At the time of filming this video, you can find a GTX 1070 on Amazon or Newegg at the low end for about $440 US. Whereas all hell is now breaking loose with Vega pricing. I mean, at the time of launch, we did see Vega 56 retail for $400 as promised, and Vega 64 for $500 as promised. But now we're seeing all these articles pop up stating that these were just launch prices for early adopters, and that now that the first wave of stock is gone, we're going to start to see the actual MSRPs for these cards appear, which is going to be $100 more for each model. So $500 for RX Vega 56 and $600 for air-cooled Vega 64. If these are the true MSRPs, which by the way, none of us reviewers received any of this information up front at AMD Tech Day or in any sort of emails from AMD directly or their PR companies. So this is all of a shock and surprise to me as well, that AMD sort of flipping the switch on the pricing here. And if that is really the case, that's really unfortunate because it was looking really good. It was looking like a really good value, good bang for the buck, at least for Vega 56. And now if it's for $500, I mean, forget about it. Just get a GTX 1070 for, you know, almost $60 cheaper. Now it does appear that if you opt for one of the Radeon packs, those bundles that come with the 2 free games or the Ryzen 7 CPU, motherboard, or the monitor, then you do get RX Vega for the early launch price. But that still seems sort of anti-consumer for users who want just the standalone card. And I feel like the whole trying to ward off cryptocurrency miners seems just like a royal excuse for everything that's happening right now. So I don't know, I feel like I want to hear more straight from the horse's mouth before I make any other statements or claims about what's going on, but it definitely does seem a bit shady, especially since none of us reviewers were made aware that these prices would be increasing immediately after the initial stock ran out. At any rate, guys, I'll keep a close eye on it for you, and I'm sure Paul and I will have something to say about it on a future awesome hardware. But that's going to do it for now, guys. Sorry again for the old batch of benchmarks. Hopefully this sort of makes up for that a little bit. I apologize. I'm only human. I screw up all the time. But hopefully you guys understand just that I'm an idiot. Be sure to toss me a like on the video if you enjoyed it. You can also subscribe to Bitwit Ultra, my ad-free early access channel, for $1.50 a month. The first 2 weeks are completely free, and you can back out any friggin' time. As always, guys, I'm Bitwit. Thank you guys so much for watching. Stay tuned for more tech stuff coming at you really soon, and I will see y'all in the next video.